Whoop they do. Yeah, wreck. Whoop they do. Plug and wreck. Whoop they do. Boot it, wreck. Whoop they do.
I study.
Whoop they do.
For a living.
Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, the UI Scuddy dropping booty, dressed like a cutie with a dress on classic covers like his album Jeffrey, juggling jail and juggernauts he signed like Gunna, gloated that he can cancel him, but looking like he needs to pick up a mandolin cause rapping in 2025 might not keep the bankroll alive. Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, like and subscribe, and let's deep dive into how Young Thug theatrically and thoroughly thwarted his ability to thrive. Now Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, this new Young Thug album,
it's not good.
I really feel like Young Thug took a page out of his mentor Lil Wayne's book in terms of raising the bar for how bad an album can be in 2025.
What up, though? All my cutthroat, cut a
I study.
Not good.
For a living.
Oh, Lil Wayne's just too good. Oh, Lil Wayne's just too good.
I study. For a living.
When you look at the facts of everything and analyze all the moves Young Thug's made for the last 10 years, everything he's been through for the last 5 years, really on paper, everything aligned in Young Thug's favor for him to be one of the biggest artists of this generation.
Whoop they do.
He's inspired your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. He's ushered in some of the biggest rappers in the game today. And he fought against the state of Georgia for his freedom, facing multi-decades behind bars, potentially losing not just his career, but his life in the process.
If we go to prison for the rest of our life, whoop they do.
He beat the odds and was able to tell the tale, but somehow everything has seemed to get worse within Young Thug's career since he received all these blessings. He was blessed to sign artists like Gunna, who would prolong his legacy and his profits, as Gunna released platinum album after platinum album for the YSL label. He was blessed to have supportive fans and a supportive, beautiful girlfriend in Mariah the Scientist who stuck by him every moment while he was fighting for his life behind bars. And he was blessed, most importantly, to regain that freedom back. So where did it all go wrong? How did we get to the point where Young Thug has the contender for worst album of 2025 when he had all of the resources and the comeback story right now to have been one of the most impactful artists of 2025?
Spicy.
Well, if there's one thing Young Thug knows how to do, it's to thrive under adversity. Young Thug came into the game with the odds stacked against him. First introducing himself as a Lil Wayne clone.
Dogg go in, curfew, and all of my riders do not give a X game. Tell me how you love it. I told Wayne I was ready for the paper like Usher. Yes, I'm in the building, you just on the list of guest names.
Young Thug eventually broke the boundaries of being a Diet Pepsi version of Lil Wayne by essentially trolling Lil Wayne and playing his game better than him.
Whoop they do.
Birdman, the owner of Cash Money Records, which had signed Lil Wayne and owns 50% of the profits of Lil Wayne's Young Money record label, which houses Drake, Nicki Minaj, Tyga, and more. He took a liking to Young Thug very early on, and the two formed the iconic Ricch Gang collective, giving us the classic hit Lifestyle way back in 2014. At this time again, Young Thug is coming into the game under Birdman's wing, similar to how Wayne did, but he's emphasizing that Lil Wayne is his favorite artist of all time, even saying that he'd rather work with Lil Wayne over Michael Jackson.
What's next for Young Thug? Who should we look forward to you working with? Do music? Any mixtapes when it come out? What can we expect in 2011?
Wayne, Young Money. I'm working with them.
You are right now?
No.
Are you going to? You're going to.
Yeah, Young Money. I'm coming.
It's too bad he never really got to work with both. He did get to work with Elton John though.
Elton John, like, he a fan. The first thing he ever said when I met him was, when WAP get out.
When what? When oh, good.
Yeah. When that said WAP,
Damn.
he said Guap.
No, he didn't, man. Stop playing.
And while Elton John was concerned about Gucci Mane's release from jail, Young Thug was concerned with when he was going to start releasing music with Lil Wayne. Again, he had just linked up with Lil Wayne's daddy, Birdman. It was only but a matter of time before Daddy Birdman introduced his son Lil Wayne to Wayne's son, Young Thug. So I guess Young Thug was like Birdman's grandson.
Spicy.
At the time, Lil Wayne was in the process of rolling out his long-anticipated 5th installment of his legendary Carter series, the Carter 5. But things took a halt when Wayne randomly got on Twitter in December of 2014 after a slew of postponements of the album. He told the world that the album could not and will not be released because Cash Money was holding it and his money hostage. He ended up suing the very label that he started everything with for over $50 million, claiming he was never properly compensated for his own work and for the profits that he brought in for Drake and Nicki Minaj. Now, Young Thug is tied between a rock and a hard place, if that's the right way to say the expression. Because Birdman is giving him his massive opportunity with Ricch Gang, but at the same time, he loves Lil Wayne, right? He wouldn't be an artist if it wasn't for Lil Wayne. So what does he do? Well, he doubles down on his love for Lil Wayne. So much so to the point where he decides that his breakout first debut album to the world is going to be called The Carter 6. Why The Carter 6? Well, Young Thug explained it initially by saying that Lil Wayne had always emphasized the Carter 5 would be his last Carter, so Young Thug was going to pick up where Wayne left off.
Oh, it's Carter 6?
Yeah.
Nah, your shit is Carter also?
Yeah.
You and Lil Wayne is coming out, or explain that to me?
Nah, I just feel like I'm that big.
Wow.
Because he feel like after the Carter 5, he ain't going to make no more music. Because he feel like can't nobody make no music like that. Carter 6.
But after Lil Wayne ended up suing Birdman, Young Thug had kind of changed his tune a little bit and said that because Lil Wayne was taking his sweet time releasing the Carter 5, Young Thug was just going to go ahead and put out the Carter 6 beforehand. And people didn't like this very much, right? This was before the Tekashi 6ix9ine days, Lil Pump, Boom Gang, whoever you want to look at for notorious, rapper hybrid / internet troll. But Young Thug was the OG in that lane. He was trolling Lil Wayne every day about how he was signed to Lil Wayne's daddy Birdman while Lil Wayne was beefing the entirety of Cash Money. And while Lil Wayne's music was held hostage, Young Thug was free to use Lil Wayne's own legendary album series title for his debut album.
The cooler like Akon. All the buns. Carter 6 coming. The Bada 6 coming, yeah. The Bada 6 bum. The Bada 6 bum, yeah.
But it didn't stop there. Lil Wayne had threatened to sue Young Thug. And so because of that, Thug decided to change the title from Carter 6 to Barter 6. And he was posing naked on the album cover.
Can't name the mixtape Carter 6 because he trying to sue. Just like some big old blood, so I'm going Barter 6 on the way.
And if that's not an FU to Lil Wayne, I don't know what is. Wayne is letting you know pretty clear, don't name your album after my album series that the world knows me for. And even worse, don't release that album under the very same label that I'm suing for all the profits that they stole from me. And even worse than that, you're naming your album Carter 6 and you're posing naked on the album cover. You're almost trolling the whole concept that I built my whole career off of.
I want y'all to understand that there's only one mother Carter. You need. I want y'all to do me a favor. If y'all ever have Ricch Gang or whoever it is in this month, y'all let them know I said fuck. Also, before I go any further, I want y'all to do me a favor and stop listening to songs that post naked on their motherfucking album cover.
Young Thug was almost meant to replace Lil Wayne in Birdman's eyes, right? Sign someone with as much potential, hunger, and talent as a young Wayne who resembles the very makings of what made Lil Wayne the star that he is, and just keep continuing the trend.
What they do?
I study
What they do?
for a living.
If you guys don't remember, back in the day, Lil Wayne was under the group The Hot Boys with Juvenile, BG, and Turk. Juvenile had the biggest album on Cash Money at the time, before Lil Wayne turned into the superstar he was. That album was called 400 Degrees. Juvenile ended up leaving Cash Money for the same reasons Wayne did. He wasn't being paid properly. And when he left, Lil Wayne actually took his album title. He took that 400 Degrees title and named his next album 500 Degrees once Juvie left the label. Young Thug was simply doing the same thing here, right? Lil Wayne couldn't release the Carter 5, so Young Thug would release the Barter 6. But because the whole world was riding with Wayne throughout this entire beef, this would not have worked if Young Thug didn't pull off the impossible. He made an amazing project.
What they do?
I would argue, as much as I love the Carter 5, the Barter 6 was low-key more influential and might have better replay value in 2025 than the Carter 5 does. And that was Young Thug's superpower for a while. He wasn't very likable. He was beefing a slew of different artists, from Kevin Gates to The Game to Lil Wayne himself, Rich Homie Quan.
See, you used to be a Crip, now you're a Blood. So I don't want no smoke with you. You got Bloods and Crips on your team. And you was a male stripper once before, so I don't want to fight you. I don't want no germs from you. And you know I'm in LA more than Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he the governor.
There was a lot of internet yapping and pillow talking going on, which will play an important role in the story very shortly. But aside from all the beefing, the trolling, the dress wearing, the hubby calling, yes, he was really calling his friends and collaborators his hubbies. But unlike Drake, a bunch of you guys have been telling me you've been Anita Max winning some free cash from playing mobile games. So I want to put all you guys on to something that almost seems too good to be true, alright? Let me give you a little glimpse into my life. When I'm not making this content for you guys, I have a disgusting addiction to my phone. My daily screen time is higher than Drake on that album cover, higher than Snoop off the edibles. So if you guys suffer that same addiction as me, I want to put you onto something that's going to change your life. FreeCash.com is a program that partners with mobile games that are looking for more users to play their games, and they will literally pay you to play their games for free. All you got to do is sign up using the QR code you see on the screen or using the link in the description of this video. You make an account super easy. All you got to do is put in your email, create a password, verify your email, and then you're good to go. And they got a bunch of games. My favorite is the Monopoly Go, because we're always on the go trying to make some money. Once you make an account, you just click the game you want to play, follow the directions that they give you. The directions are super easy. Usually you just got to download the game and start playing. So it's about time you put that phone addiction to good use. Again, use the QR code you see on the screen or the link in my description. Create an account and you could start making more than $150 just to play a game on your phone. Ultimately, Young Thug ended up tuning out all the controversy by simply just dropping amazing, influential, impactful music that would go on to set the tone for what we would hear from the Atlanta trap scene for the next decade. We had never heard something like Young Thug before. That's what made him so enthralling, so captivating. That's what made his music so magnetic. But this story would take a darker turn, and the beef would escalate when Wayne and Young Thug were out on tour. Ironically, the day of the Barter 6 release, Young Thug was performing in Lil Wayne's hometown of Holly Grove, New Orleans, while Wayne was performing in Thug's hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, on that very same night. And on that night, Young Thug ended up getting booed off the stage in Lil Wayne's hometown, but somehow Lil Wayne suffered a much worse fate. Lil Wayne would have seemingly got into some sort of argument or disagreement with one of Young Thug's associates, Pee Wee Roscoe, who was at the venue Wayne was performing at in Atlanta. This would lead to Pee Wee Roscoe allegedly shooting up Lil Wayne's tour bus, which would lead him to spend almost a decade incarcerated for the crime. What's suspicious is that Pee Wee Roscoe had called a cell phone when he was in jail 20 times, a cell phone that was linked to Young Thug. He would also have a very suspicious phone call with Birdman, who again, the owner of Cash Money, where Birdman would say this was all strictly business.
Tap you to come out here and get this money, nephew. Well, my nigga, you done blessed. You did everything you could do, bro. It's an eye opener, bro. You know what I'm saying? Out here on that strictly business, man.
And again, that's a phone call that took place while Pee Wee Roscoe had just got incarcerated for allegedly committing this crime. Years later, interrogation footage would leak of police calling in Young Thug for questioning pertaining to this crime. The interrogation took place way back in 2015, but it only leaked onto the internet in around 2023. And it's being used against Young Thug in 2025 for reasons we'll get to later in this video. But why this is important is because the police called Young Thug in to basically ask him what his association was to Pee Wee Roscoe and if he knew whether or not Pee Wee Roscoe had shot up Wayne's tour bus. Young Thug had emphasized to the police officers that Pee Wee Roscoe was actually friends with Lil Wayne, even saying that Roscoe had sold Wayne weed. But we're not here to be internet detectives on whether or not Young Thug was associated to this crime. Why this is important is because Young Thug revealed more information in that police interrogation about the entire Lil Wayne and Birdman beef and Thug's involvement in it than he has in any interview or any song he's ever put out. He told the police officers that the beef between Birdman and Wayne was a very confusing one. Birdman, who was again trying to sign Young Thug, had told Thug that Lil Wayne was mad at him because Birdman wouldn't allow the release of the Carter 5. Birdman told Thug that the reason why he wouldn't put out the Carter 5 is because Wayne didn't have any hits. And if you guys remember back at that time, Wayne chucked out like 5 different singles. None of them had an impact on the charts the same way the massive singles of the Carter 4 or the Carter 3 had. He had 2 Drake records. None of them hit. So Birdman didn't want to put out the album because it would be a loss of an investment from the label, right? The label puts up all this money for the Carter 5. It ends up flopping because there's no big single, no big buzz around the project. Then the label loses money. But Thug told the cops that he loved Lil Wayne so much that when Birdman told him the reason why him and Wayne are beefing is because he won't put out the Carter 5, Young Thug actually went to Wayne and offered him his massive hit, Lifestyle. He said Wayne could just have the record. And I find this so crazy because that's like a generation-defining hit. And imagine it was Wayne performing that entire song. Ultimately, Wayne declined, saying that he doesn't want other rappers writing his music, which is pretty respectable. His protege Drake should probably take note. But it would be crazy if Lifestyle was the first single of the Carter 5. But again, this is what Birdman is telling Young Thug, right? Because Birdman doesn't want Young Thug to know that the real reason why him and Wayne are beefing is because Wayne feels like Birdman hasn't paid him. Remember, again, Birdman is in the process of trying to sign Young Thug. Young Thug says that when he realized through Lil Wayne's music and the things he was saying in public and the fact that he filed a lawsuit against Birdman, that the real reason why they were beefing is because Birdman was stealing money from Wayne. That's when Young Thug realized, F Birdman, I can't sign to him.
You don't give a shout out to like Birdman or...
I shouted out Birdman before. I shouted out a lot of people. I shouted out Lil Wayne before. Still, yeah. I put a video the other day and shouted him out. I guess he seen that and then he just finally just put it in his head like, okay, this little boy don't hate me. This probably think I hate him. I'm like, bro, I want to die with you, nigga. I don't do music with this fool. And Bird didn't make it no better. Man, damn, Bird, man. Still it up, right?
I can't believe you're saying that, man.
What, Bird?
Yeah.
And I almost signed, but he like to pay him, like, bro.
But it's a little suspicious because Young Thug says he realized that, Birdman was stealing money from Wayne in around January of 2015 when Wayne put out the song Coco Freestyle, where he emphasized that he wasn't getting paid properly from Cash Money. But yeah, that was back in January of 2015. Young Thug still went on like a 6-month trolling spree of Lil Wayne, which escalated with that Atlanta tour bus shooting in around April of 2015. And Thug was still riding with Birdman throughout this entire time, even though he's telling the cops in this interrogation that the second he realized that Birdman was stealing Wayne's money, he said, F Birdman. That wasn't really the case in the public eye. So already you can't get a read on whether or not Thug is a liar and ultimately who he's loyal to. But it didn't matter, again, because the music was just undeniable. The reason why people say Lil Wayne is the most influential rapper of this generation is because Young Thug was his predecessor. And Young Thug was really the one to usher in that next generation that took heavy inspiration from Wayne. But it's kind of complicated because really they were kind of taking the sound, the look, the aesthetic, the lingo, the cadences, the vocal inflections. They were taking that from Young Thug. Think about the Lil Uzis. Even think about Travis Scott, Gunna, Lil Baby, Playboi Carti. You could pinpoint a more direct lineage to their sound being inspired from Young Thug than you could from their sound being inspired to Wayne's. But the thing is, Young Thug built his blueprint off of Wayne. So it's kind of like Lil Wayne is like the father, Thug is like the son, and then the Uzis, Cartis, Lil Baby, whoever, they're all the offsprings of Young Thug. Why this is important is because Young Thug was able to stretch out his legacy and become bigger and bigger as the years progressed because that Atlanta trap scene that he helped innovate and evolve into this melody-driven, alien-type sound, that sound was now bigger than ever, with Young Thug at the forefront of it. Now, why is this important? Well, the same way Wayne was able to prolong his legacy by ushering in the next generation of superstars like Drake and Nicki Minaj, who kind of carried his sound into the next generation, Young Thug had a very similar thing happen when he brought in the Lil Babies and Gunnas into the game and then they took over. Because I would make the argument that Young Thug suffered his own creative decline in around 2017. He was really ahead of the curve, dropping one of the most experimental trap albums we've ever heard with Beautiful Thugger Girls, which was infused and inspired by country music. And people highly overlook this, but I think that project set the stage and set the precedent for what the Shabuzis, the Post Malones, and all these other rappers that are collaborating with the Morgan Wallens were capable of doing. Young Thug really did it first with Beautiful Thugger Girls. That was the creative peak, but the boundaries he was willing to push kind of stagnated after that. And I think the only reason why he only got bigger after Beautiful Thugger Girls is again because his offsprings, the Lil Babies and Gunnas and Lil Uzis, were now the biggest rappers in the game. And they would always feature Young Thug on their projects. Thug sound was inherent in their DNA. So when you think of those artists who are the biggest now in the game, you think of Young Thug. And because of that, when Young Thug was on his own without all his little offsprings running around, he was only selling anywhere from 15 to 30,000 copies in the first week with every one of his projects. But then Gunna came in, Lil Baby came in, and all of a sudden, the Atlanta trap scene was bigger than ever, and Young Thug, again being at the forefront, was now selling 100,000 copies in the first week with his album So Much Fun. Kind of a very suspicious large jump. That's going to play an important role pretty shortly. Because in my opinion, that was the first time we saw Young Thug kind of creatively stagnate. The album had a couple hits, but it was nothing groundbreaking. If anything, it was Thug regressing sonically, if that makes sense. The melodies weren't as poignant, the flows weren't as sharp, the hooks weren't as hypnotizing as a song like With That or Wyclef Jean. That album was kind of like the same old, but worse. But yet Young Thug was bigger than ever after that project. And he would only get bigger until everything came crashing down.
If we go to prison for the rest of our life, whoop-de-doo.
On May 9th, 2022, Young Thug was arrested at his home in Atlanta. He was one of 28 people named in a massive indictment. Prosecutors said his label, YSL, again a record label that was pioneering the biggest sound in hip-hop at the time with Atlanta trap music, that record label didn't just stand for Young Stoner Life. They said it also stood for Young Slime Life, and that it was really a street gang involved in serious crimes. They accused YSL of everything from drug trafficking to armed robbery, shootings, and assaults. 2 days later, Gunna, the major artist of YSL, also turned himself in. By August of 2022, even more charges were added against Young Thug, including new drug and firearm charges. Because it was a RICO case, prosecutors were basically saying YSL was an organized crime group, and every crime tied to it could be connected back to Young Thug as a leader of the group. That's why he was facing so much time. He was facing decades in prison if the jury believed the state's story. After he was locked up, Young Thug and his co-defendants kept asking for bond, meaning they wanted to be released from jail while awaiting trial. The judges denied it over and over again. And that's why Young Thug sat in jail the entire time leading up to trial, which was over 3 years, leaving him absent from hip-hop for 3 years while his sound continued getting bigger through artists like Lil Uzi, Carti, Future, and more. The trial finally began on November 27, 2023. By then, most of the 28 people originally indicted had taken plea deals. Only 6 defendants actually went to trial with Young Thug, and those were Yak Gotti, Lil Rod, Quay, SB, Quamarvius Nicholas, and Young Thug himself. And the trial had all kinds of very serious problems for Young Thug. The first judge, Ural Glanville, was kicked off the case after people said he was secretly meeting with prosecutors and a witness. The next judge, Shakira Ingram, had to step down because of a personal connection with a courthouse deputy. The final judge became Paige Reese Whitaker. Young Thug's lawyers had accused prosecutors of misconduct, saying they were being unfair. At one point, Young Thug's lead attorney, Brian Steele, refused to reveal the source that he got to prove that the trial was unfair. And because of that, he was held in contempt of court. On top of all that, one of the co-defendants, SB, was stabbed while sitting in jail during the trial. Delays and security problems like this slowed things down even more. And all of these issues turned the YSL trial into the longest criminal trial in Georgia history, and one of the most expensive trials Fulton County has ever seen. But remember, only 6 of the 28 co-defendants on this case ended up actually going to trial. The rest of them took plea deals. And Young Thug, rightfully so, was not a fan of these people around him all taking plea deals. One of the biggest dangers for Thug in this case was the plea deals that other people in YSL had accepted. When someone takes a plea deal, they usually admit certain facts in exchange for less prison time. Those admissions can be used in certain cases by prosecutors to back up their case against others. The best example here is Gunna. In December of 2022, Gunna took what's called an Alford plea. That means he legally pled guilty while still saying he was innocent. But the important part is this. As part of the plea, Gunna admitted that YSL was a criminal street gang, not just a music label. He got a 5-year sentence with 1 year counted as time served and the rest suspended on probation, plus 500 hours of community service. By admitting YSL was a gang, prosecutors could point to that and say, see, even one of Thug's closest people admits it. That's why many people thought Gunna's plea could hurt Young Thug's case, even though Gunna didn't directly testify against him. Another major part of the case was whether the state could use Young Thug's own music against him. Prosecutors want to take lyrics from his songs and show them to the jury as evidence that he was actually admitting to crimes. In November of 2023, the judge allowed 17 different sets of lyrics to be quote-unquote conditionally admitted. That meant that the prosecutors could use them if they connected them directly to crimes. For example, they pointed to lyrics that mentioned firearms, shootings, and gang codes. Prosecutors said, these aren't just songs, they describe the crimes we're charging him with. Young Thug's lawyers fought back, saying that rap is art, it's storytelling, and it's not fair to treat lyrics like a diary. They said it violated free speech and could trick jurors into thinking art is the same as reality. And I agree with that, but ultimately it didn't matter because on October 31st, 2024, almost a year ago, Young Thug himself entered a non-negotiated plea. That means he pled guilty without a formal deal on the sentence. The judge gave him 40 years, but split it up like this. 5 years in prison, but that was counted as quote-unquote time served because he had already been locked up for more than 2 years, 15 years on probation, and a backloaded 20 years. That means if he breaks probation, he could be forced to serve up to 20 years in prison. But on that very day, he was released from jail.
If we go to prison for the rest of our life, whoop-dee-doo.
You might think he's a free man, but his probation terms can very easily get him back locked up. For example, he can't live in or visit the Atlanta metro area for 10 years. That's where he grew up, unless it's for family emergencies or important events. He has to return to Atlanta 4 times a year to give anti-gang and anti-firearm presentations to young people. He can't use gang language, promote gangs, or throw gang signs in his music. He can't hang around known gang members or co-defendants of the case, except for Gunna, which his lawyer had actually requested. He must agree to random searches, random drug tests. He can't even own a gun. He breaks any of these rules, he could lose his probation and have to serve those 20 backloaded years in prison. And believe it or not, months after becoming a free man, based on his social media activity after getting released from jail, in April 2025, prosecutors had actually filed a motion to revoke Young Thug's probation. They accused him of violating the rules by amplifying threatening social media posts aimed at witnesses and public officials. And if the court agreed, then he could have been sent back to prison. So what did Young Thug do after coming out of jail that was so bad that the prosecutors wanted to send him back? Well, to be honest, I'm not completely sure, but if we're prosecuting him creatively, like how he could have came back as the best form of artist he could have been, after a 3-year stint in prison with the entire world waiting for what he was about to do, yeah, there's a lot to criticize there. I mean, let's not forget about the fact that while he was locked up, Gunna again took that plea, and that left Young Thug on a crash-out mission to try and destroy Gunna's career. Gunna was rolling out his first album after being released in July of 2023. Don't forget, he's signed to Young Thug's label, so Young Thug knows when he's putting out an album. Young Thug wants to sabotage his career by putting out an album on the same day as Gunna. And he's still locked up, so everyone's riding with Thug, right? So he gets the entire world on this business is business album that he tries to put out the same day as Gunna to distract the world and destroy Gunna's big comeback. He has 21 Savage on there, 2 Drake features, Travis Scott, Future, Lil Baby, and a lot more. But this doesn't work though. Gunna ends up having one of the biggest hits of 2023 with F You Mean. Meanwhile, nothing from that business is business album from Young Thug ended up sticking. Like I said, he was on a creative downcline ever since 2017. And the only person who cared about all these snitching allegations was Young Thug himself. The rest of the world just wanted good music. And when he came out of prison, that's all we wanted from him, right? If he really wanted to destroy Gunna's career, all he had to do when he got released was just make way better music than Gunna. And send some light jabs in the verses so the world knows that you're not still rocking with Gunna. And everyone will end up siding with you, right? This is the ultimate underdog story of one of the most legendary artists from this generation. But instead, he goes on a rat bender.
Gunna wreck, yeah, wreck, slugger wreck, wounded wreck. That Obama, he still mad about baby mama.
Everybody's a rat, from Gunna to P, the CEO of the QC record label, to Kid Cudi for testifying in the Diddy trial. We get like 10 tweets from Young Thug about people being rats before we get a single song released from him since he got released from prison. And you might be thinking he really beat all the odds with everything stacked against him. decades he was facing in prison, all gone in the blink of an eye. However, once he got released is when the odds would stack up even higher. After calling everybody a rat, it was to the world's surprise when we finally heard that interrogation leak when Young Thug was talking to police officers about the Lil Wayne tour bus shooting connected with Pee Wee Roscoe. How you gonna call everybody a rat when you're talking to the police? But what do I know? I'm a white dude from Canada. We're not here to talk about who's a rat and a slat and the cat in the hat, all right? That's irrelevant to this story. What's relevant, though, is the fact that there was a targeted slander campaign against Young Thug after this. Someone was leaking all of his private jail phone conversations. I mean, not really private because these calls are all monitored and recorded while you're locked up, right? So he's talking to 21 Savage, he's talking to his manager, he's talking to his girlfriend Mariah the Scientist, and he's talking about the industry. Remember how I told you guys before, Young Thug came into the game gossiping and beefing with a lot of different rappers, right? Well, that was no different and even worse when he was locked up. We got an inside look into what Young Thug was thinking and planning when he was trying to sabotage Gunna's album release when Gunna first came out because he thought Gunna was a rat. Again, he was trying to release his album Business is Business on the same day as Gunna. So, when the album wasn't selling that he thought it would, when he thought he would go number 2 on the charts and lose to Morgan Wallen, that'd be a bad look if he's really trying to sabotage the impact that Gunna was making at the time, right? So he's calling his manager and he's asking his manager if they still have the bot plug, the fake stream bot plug that they used to boost up Gunna sales so they can use it for Young Thug's own album.
When he did his 2 album deal with me, Cash called me one day like, hey, what the hell going on with Gunna? Who's speaking for him? I'm like, wow. He trying to get signed right here with Weeknd signed it. He demanded he want, 20 million. So I already done told him, like, whatever you want, just say it. I'm going to give you the money, whatever you want. I know you can't go nowhere in this world and get no $20 million check from no label. You're not doing numbers like that. The number 1 album you just had right now, I paid for you to have a number 1 album. You didn't, you know what I'm saying, honestly earn a number 1 album over the weekend, my boy. I paid for that. I never said that to him. I never told him that, cause we just got the plug on that. Like, you never earned a number 1 album. I spent $50 extra grand buying my stream, $50,000 buying streams for you. And Cash know the same plug, so Cash could have did the same thing. But Cash let it go. Cash just snap down, man, let it on the way, and I ain't standing. Snap down.
And even if Uzi moves, we still have to deal with Morgan Wallen because he's doing 100,000 every week, no matter what.
Who?
Morgan Wallen, the country guy.
Yeah, what the f is this doing? Why the f didn't we think to put him on the album? Like, what the f?
I mean,
you think we're gonna beat the boy?
I'm not going to sleep until we beat him. So whatever happens. So
beat the boy,
okay.
Beat the boy, then tell the boy you can't beat me, join me. Get on this song, young boy. Yeah, let's try to beat that. You still got that plug, right? That's what we did with none of them. You still got that plug?
Yeah.
Tell you. All right, my boy.
Yeah. All right, I love you. Call me an hour.
Remember, like I told you before, Young Thug hit that creative peak in 2017, but that wasn't his sales peak. Back then, he was only selling around 30K in the first week with every album. Suddenly, in 2019, he's selling 130K in the first week, and that album didn't even hold a candle to the stuff he released before that was barely selling. Well, we might have our answers now. The bot plugs. Not to be confused with the butt plugs. I don't know if I could say that on YouTube, but anyways, regardless. In pursuit of getting that massive album that was going to sabotage Gunna's big comeback, he was also trying to recruit Kendrick Lamar for his Business is Business album. Kendrick ultimately declined the feature, so Young Thug went on a whole rant, while he was incarcerated to his manager about how Kendrick will never be as big as Drake because he doesn't give features to superstars like Young Thug or Moneybagg Yo or 21 Savage, and he doesn't put any rappers on.
With Kendrick.
I hope he do it.
So do I.
He don't take no money, do he?
No. He wouldn't do that. But think about it. He does so few verses. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not just doing verses. Like,
right. All that fake. I ain't getting no rapper song shit. I don't be liking them type nigga like that. You nigga get too big. I don't want to do no feature. Why? Why you don't want to do no feature? Why wouldn't you want to do a feature for a superstar? You really got Lil Dirt calling you for a song. Lil Baby. Dogg. Real superstar calling you for a song. Why wouldn't you do the song? We lit, nigga. We going number 1, too. I don't be understanding that type of shit. Supposed to be a nigga who blessing it. That's why them niggas will never be bigger than Drake. Ever in life. Put somebody on. It's okay to bring you a few hundred M's up, but who you help, though? They'll never be bigger than Buddy. Buddy gonna do it right. Buddy with everybody. You know how many niggas like Drake change? How many niggas can take care of their family because of Buddy? Just like straight with you. Kendrick, goddamn, put him on. You're a superstar. You don't ran up you a few hundred M, but you ain't putting nobody on, though. You probably with me, Wham, Dirt, Savvy. You probably with us. You probably calling us like, hey, man, I want y'all young niggas on my album. I'm on some player shit this time around. I'm on some player shit.
Young Thug was also on those jail phone calls calling Gucci Mane soft.
To be signed to Gucci. P used to be signed to Gucci Mane. When Gucci Mane found out that shit, he dropped it. Because P used to try to rap.
Well, they still friends, so how's that?
Yeah. Ended up going to jail. I gave it, got him turned soft.
He said the Migos were losing their label money. He said his longtime collaborator and friend Future was too focused on being for the streets, sleeping with any woman that he could, instead of actually focusing on his children.
Ain't nobody getting nothing but goddamn Pluto. He definitely do it. She probably done killed some of his babies, for sure. She probably done aborted some of his babies, for sure. 100%. He done took that bitch. Man, we went to Dubai one year. He took that bitch to Dubai with her and Brittany, her and the baby mama. I know for sure she don't have some abortion. Get the crazy part is when I became a superstar, I stopped nothing when I became a superstar. I started being like, bitches, I know a bitch gonna try to trick me. He just started nothing when they become a superstar. I did it the backward way. Like, I'm 38, 39, all the kids grown. I'm just smack straight young shit and none of them hoes. It's really fire, but it should be just like one or two girls like Bob Marley, you know? Bob Marley, well, he had a lot of baby mamas too, though. But he was more like a real father, too, though. You know what I'm saying? Pluto got to, like, settle down and really just be with all the kids. People weren't looking at Bob Marley like, ew, you got 15 kids. You got 25 kids. I think Bob Marley got, like, 25 kids. People weren't looking at him like he was bad because he was, like, a real father. He was just, like, super there and just being a super dad, being whatever the best he could be. So women, he wasn't, like, disgraceful to women. Women wanted to have his kids. Pluto is like, you pushing the P, you just want to have your kids and shit too, but you still got to be like 100% locked in with the kids. You like 100% locked in with the bitches. That's the wrong way to go.
And as you could see, right, there was obviously someone out to get Young Thug by releasing all these phone calls, which exposed Thug for really crap talking the entire industry. I didn't even play you guys half of the phone calls that we got throughout that 2-week-long stint of new Thug jail phone calls coming out every single day. He was also crapping on Drake, calling him stupid for being very insensitive when Metro Boomin had tragically lost his mother.
And Drake's so stupid, he probably just sent the stupidest condolences like, yeah, bro, sorry for moms, and you know I'm here for you, bro, whatever you need. Just like something stupid. Instead of giving them some wisdom or something real, you probably just said some crazy stuff on the phone, which is, you still genuine, you know what I'm saying? But you probably said something like that, and then you come right back 2-3 weeks later like, yo, let me get this on.
Right.
Instead of, you know, like doing the whole real procedure, calling them every single day, calling them every day, just figuring it out, getting with it. Like, hey, where you at? I'm gonna get on the plane and come chill with you, bro. Like, you using the fact that you Drake as a weapon now.
There was a lot more, all right? But this set Young Thug in a very bad light. Obviously, already, he's trying to win over the court of public opinion by painting himself to be the morally superior, righteous, whatever you want to call it, person and artist than Gunna. But here he is crap-talking all his friends. All these artists who were supporting Young Thug when he was locked up, he was really locked up, pillow-talking about them, showing what he really thought, showing who he truly is. A chatty patty. And you could say, well, yeah, but you're locked up. You don't know how many years you're facing. Your headspace is not, you know, how can I be politically correct here when I'm talking about people? It's, I'm frustrated. I have nothing to lose. I'm caught up in my emotions. I'm going to say whatever the hell I feel. And that's completely valid. But it's now 2025. You just got your freedom back. You haven't released a single song, but yet we keep getting these jail phone calls released where we hear your true colors and how you really felt about all these people within the industry. So what is the public to think when we saw how you act when all the odds are stacked against you and you think no one is really watching or listening? Remember now, Young Thug got released in around November of 2024. We haven't heard a single song from him. But to his defense, he did get to song making once all these jail phone calls released. Remember, he had almost an entire year to drop his long-awaited upcoming comeback album, UI Scuddy. Instead, he was more focused on rat tweets, and when that backfired on him, when all those jail phone calls got released and the interrogation audio of him talking to the police, that's when he decided it was time to stop talking and put out this album. UI Scuddy is a huge star in space, one of the biggest that we know. It's about 1,700 times wider than the sun. pretty good album title if you're really coming in with outer worldly heat and you want it to propel you into massive superstardom. Did it do that after all the talking, all the drama? Well, remember again, because of the terms of his probation, it will be a challenge for a Young Thug to rap about what he's been rapping about for the last 10 years. No drugs, no firearm, no gang violence, nothing can be discussed on record. But in my opinion, Young Thug doesn't need that. Aside from the fact that he has a slew of content to reflect on based on the trials and tribulations he's faced over the last 3 years, it's more the animation within his voice, the character that he brings to a record, the melody, the fact that he uses his voice as an instrument that really carries a lot of Thug's music and has made him one of the most impactful artists of this generation. I mean, to be honest, I've listened to almost Young Thug's entire catalog. I can't name you a single real quotable that's related to gang violence or firearms, right? Well, maybe if cops pull up, I put that crack in my crack. But my favorite Young Thug songs, Tell 'Em with Rich Homie Quan, Wyclef Jean, Lifestyle, Check, With That. I'm not going to those for the, gangster persona Young Thug is putting on or the subject matter about killing and drilling. No, I'm looking for killer melodies and outer worldly flows. That's what Young Thug is best at. Did he bring that to this album? Well, unfortunately not exactly. This thing is an uninspired mess, a collection of an array of songs. 90% of them should have just been left on the cutting room table. We'll take it from the top. The intro track alone. They used a sample of one of the prosecutors in Young Thug's case talking about how he's a menace to society. I remember this exact same speech went viral like 3 years ago when the prosecutor actually made the speech. And it just brought me back to that time. And I remember thinking back then how the odds were so heavily stacked against Thug. The way they're talking about Young Thug on this record, it's as if he is the Tasmanian devil, the worst person on planet Earth, an absolute menace to society. And it's crazy to think how time flies and all that Young Thug had to fight, all the labels that the prosecutors were pinning against this man that he ended up overcoming. They were saying if he gets bond, he was going to go out and threaten witnesses. That's what you hear on this speech. This is the way that his new album opens up. It sets the emphasis on how much ground he had to cover on this album, everything he had to discuss over the last 3 years to his fans to show us how much he's been through, right? Well, as far as the intro song, it takes a quick turn from that prosecutor speech into this very hard-hitting beat, high energy delivery from Young Thug, this like menacing, deep, alien type voice. It makes it hard to casually listen to. This is something you really have to kind of fine-tune your ears in order to be able to bump this thing really passionately, but it's hard-hitting. The energy's there. And while I think Young Thug has always been a pioneer of free-flowing creativity, not necessarily constraining himself to the bounds of tight song structure, conventional melodies, or deliveries, he really takes it up a notch in kind of a bad way on a song like this and really on the entire album. Because while he starts off on a good note, by the end of the song, he starts using this like talking type of flow where not only is it not engaging, it's like he's not even rapping. He's just kind of talking over the beat. And it makes the song feel like it's all over the place. Then he throws you off completely by just going on this 8-bar set where he's just aggressively dumping out hard R after hard R. I'm a white Canadian. I don't know how the hell I'm going to get away with playing this song no matter how much of a banger it is. It kind of just feels like he's not taking anything seriously, which, has been one of his strong suits again in the past. Is he using that to his advantage on this project? On this intro, I'd say sort of, but man, do things take a heavy downward turn with just the next song. The song is called Yuck, and it's pretty fitting for what this song is. Horrible way to start off your comeback project. The first album you've given us in 2.5 years. You got Ken Carson featured on this thing, rapping offbeat. It's always the beats that carry a rapper like Ken Carson, who always goes into these unconventional, offbeat, out-of-the-box type flows. And in my opinion, for a guy like Ken Carson, it works in maybe like 1 in every 10 songs, but this beat, the production here is not doing them any favors, and that's a constant theme throughout the project. Young Thug seems like he feels directionless, still has that unconventional, out-of-this-world style on some of the tracks, but the production is just so bland, it doesn't match his energetic delivery. And then when he's not energetic, he sounds half asleep. It's a weird duality. The next song, On the News with Cardi B. I've never loved Cardi B personally, but her verse is solid, and I like the hook. that Young Thug has here, but a constant theme, again, throughout this album is that he just keeps repeating the title of the track to use it as the hook. So on this song, it's, do you know how it feels to see your face on the news? He just keeps repeating that over and over again. I really like the voice that he uses on the hook for this song. It sounds like his most classic voice that he used in his prime on albums like Jeffrey and Barter 6. And I like the pocket he's in on the hook. It's just that like he just keeps repeating the same line. It'd be better with a little more variety. It almost feels like he's purposely trying as little as possible. And that used to be Young Thug's superpower, is just go off whatever your gut is feeling at that very moment. And that creative expression that you get from not giving a F and just flowing out whatever comes to mind, it would create magic. But it seems like the magic is sort of dwindling. One thing I do got to give Thug credit is there are several instances on this project where he does seem to be getting a little introspective, reflecting on, some of the hardships he's faced over the last few years. Like on the song Catch Me I'm Falling, where he depicts the scene of meeting with his lawyer late at night, trying to figure out his entire case, reflecting on the stakes that he was facing, emphasizing that his rap music has to sell because no one will hire him after this because he was a convicted felon. He broke down in his cell about his brothers folding on him in the case. He reflects on that in this song. He dropped some interesting lines about the fact that he couldn't even cap to the judge and say that, YSL wasn't a gang because they were televising the work, how he puts it. They were essentially documenting their entire lifestyle. And while, subject matter wise, I do think this song is great, I don't love sonically how he's delivering anything on this song and most of the entire album. He's using, again, this deep voice that doesn't sound natural at all. Doesn't sound like he's speaking from the heart here. It sounds like he's overcompensating, trying to sound like he's kind of on the verge of tears, but like it's kind of like when you're fake crying, like it sounds like he's talking like this, like he's about to cry, but it doesn't sound real, right? He does the same thing on one of my highlights on this project, Miss My Dogs, where he, apologizes to every artist from 21 Savage to Lil Baby, Future, Drake. I already discussed that song in a previous video. You guys can check it out. But Young Thug has never been a lyricist, right? Lyricism was never necessarily his strong suit. So for him to try and open up, I definitely respect it. I just don't feel like the words are flowing off his tongue smoothly. Pause. It doesn't sound natural. It's almost like when you have ChatGPT write an essay for you, right? And then you try to read it, like it's not going to sound natural. Same thing with Thug trying to get deep and introspective in a digestible way sonically. Kodak, that has always been his strong suit, right? Like he can maintain his flow while still really getting into a deep lyrical bag. Young Thug has always been like, let me focus on flow and compromise the lyrics because of that. So when he tries to get lyrical here, the delivery feels unnatural. But although I'm not a fan of this delivery, it does at least feel like he's making an effort. I can't say the same thing for the next song, Effin' Told You, where it literally sounds like he's saying one word per bar, like crap, this is crap. Like that's how the song goes. He sounds more directionless than ever, repeating things like yes ma'am over and over again, just stretching his vocals out, sounding like he's half asleep. Effin' Told You is another example where he has a hook where he's just repeating the same thing over and over again. That's not going to have staying power in the long term, right? There's nothing memorable here. But what was memorable was his amazing interview that he did recently where he reflected on all the hardship he's going through, all the betrayal he felt from his brothers like Gunna, right? And we got a lot of quotables from that interview, which should have been used on this album. There was a guy on Instagram who literally took a bunch of vocals from that interview and chopped them up into songs, and they sound better than anything on this project.
When you got out of jail, you didn't help Slime at all. Savage sent money to Thug. Overly Wham sent money to Thug. Overly Luda sent money to Thug. Overly Drake sent money to Thug. Overly, what the hell the prosecutor gonna spell prosecution wrong? What are you talking about?
So yeah, there's a remix of Young Thug saying whoop-de-doo where they just chopped his interview. And aside from the fact that he opens up more in that interview than he does on this album, he actually tries to use some of the quotables from the interview to make a song on this project. It's literally called Whoop-de-doo, but it's just missing the mark on every front. He sounds half asleep again. The subject matter is boring. He's talking about spoiling his girl. Feels like the beat and the flow had the intention of being this vibrant song, but his delivery again is half asleep, and the beat doesn't really incorporate enough, bouncy, groovy, upbeat synths to make up for Young Thug's half-asleep delivery. And it's sad because whoop-de-doo, this could have been the biggest song off the project. So many people have been saying whoop-de-doo because of that Young Thug interview. Then you get a little beat switch, which is nice because the pacing and delivery was very monotone for the first half of this thing. And it's not bad per se, but the repetition of the phrase whoop-de-doo literally just demolishes the head-bumping ability of this song. It's very hard to replay something like this, and it's a lot of potential wasted since this was a huge meme. And I gotta say, he sounds very sad on a lot of these songs, which is sad, you know? He should be happy. He has a lot to celebrate, right? It's weird that you get a song called Sad Slime when he just beat a RICO case where the state was trying to prove that slime meant he was the leader of a gang. One of the highlights on this project for me is when he really takes it back to those vintage 2015 days where he was doing what I think he does best. He had London on the track and T.I. on the song R.I.P. Big and Mac. And if you know anything about their collaborations in the past, this is an unstoppable trio. Can't Tell off Barter 6 or About the Money, T.I., Young Thug, London on the track. Magical combination. And this song, from the production to the impeccable verses from both Thug and T.I., bring me right back to those Barter 6 days. So that's most definitely a highlight for me. Aside from that, though, I can't say that most of the songs on this project have the same amount of effort that R&P Big and Mac have. It got so brutal to the point where, put it like this, right? I use Apple Music. Apple Music always gets these new releases very late, let's say. Spotify gets them first. I was trying to listen to this thing right when it first released. So I had to go to Spotify since I usually use Apple Music and I don't have the paid version of Spotify. I got the version where they feed you a bunch of ads and they start shuffling the songs and they just throw in random songs as you're listening to an album. So basically, after every Young Thug song I would play off this project, it'd be followed up by like a country song. Like there was like 3 Morgan Wallen songs they tried to feed me. But put it like this album from a production and an artist performance standpoint has been so low effort that when I heard the first few seconds of the country song that Spotify was trying to force feed me, and I thought I was still listening to the Young Thug album, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh, this beat actually sounds kind of lively. It sounds unique. These vocals sound good. And I don't like country by any means, let alone Morgan Wallen. But you know it's bad when like they throw in a random Morgan Wallen song and I'm thinking it's a Young Thug song, and I'm like, oh, wow, this sounds better than anything I've heard so far off this project yet. It was bad, man. It was bad. And when I knew it was a wrap is when I saw the Lil Baby feature. That faithful Lil Baby feature, Wham knows best, or whatever Young Thug used to say, whatever Wham says go. They've been propping each other up ever since Young Thug came out of jail, but man, the second I saw that Lil Baby was on this thing, I was like, I immediately know exactly how this song is going to sound. Monotonous is honestly the only word I can use to describe it. Same thing with the next song, Mommy, featuring Sexy Red. It's this repetitive, ratchet song, but it's missing the kick in the door type energy that you find on the production of the hooks of a classic Sexy Red banger. I do like the energy on the next song, What Up Jesus, and I like the vocals that Young Thug is bringing there as well. It's exactly what I'm talking about when I reference classic Young Thug vocals. If you want an idea of what that classic Young Thug sound is, go listen to this song, What Up Jesus. I don't necessarily love the track. The verses still feel very choppy. There's nothing that necessarily stands out, but his voice is there, the energy's there. I guess at the very least, that's what I could ask for. Some smooth, melodic vocals. Definitely one of the highlights off the project. Then you have the song Walk Down with 21 Savage, where he shows you why he has become one of the more superior artists from that whole crop of Atlanta trap artists that emerged over the last 5 to 10 years. He brings life to this song, way more than Young Thug does on the entirety of this entire album. He always comes in with smooth delivery and some good quotables. Young Thug himself, again, just comes in by repeating the same few words for the hook, which completely destroys the potential for replay value of the song. And as far as the production standpoint, the only thing that really stood out to me as a really vibrant or groovy beat was the London on the Track song with T.I. And I don't understand, when these guys are in the studio, like, how can you not have the ear for that? How do you not hear like those alien type beats that London on the Track produces and then stick with those instead of these horribly formulaic, repetitive, drum heavy, soulless beats? And I will say this again, right? Remember how I was listening to this on my first listen on Spotify, where they play all the tracks on shuffle mode. So the first song that came up when I pressed play on the album was Pipe Down with Travis Scott. And when I first heard this on my first listen, I'm like, all right, like, this is a mediocre song. Like, it's not great, but it's also not bad. It's solid. But once the album came on Apple Music and I actually got the opportunity to listen to it front to back, by the time this song came back around and I heard it for the second time, it stood out way more just because of how soulless the production on the rest of the album sounds. It's kind of like how they say, if you're like a 5 on 10 good looking on a good day, but you're standing next to a bunch of 2s on 10s, you're going to look like a 10 on 10 compared to them. It's the same thing with this song right here. I like the production a lot on this one. Pipe Down with Travis Scott. It has like this Zaytoven type beat, and it was actually produced by Metro. Same thing with London on the track, man. Like, why didn't Young Thug just get more beats from Metro and London? You're 10 plus years in the game. You should be able to have the ear for what stands out in terms of just outer worldly experiences on a production side. And you have access to all the best producers in the game. It makes absolutely no sense. But again, on this track, we get a calm delivery from Young Thug. He's kind of mumbling on the song. Feels like he could have came in with more energy. Travis Scott's verse is something we've heard a million times before. Same flows as usual. It's not bad per se. Just doesn't sound like a standout collaboration between Thug and Travis, like a pick up the phone. But this song does end up being good simply because of the beat. In the middle of Travis' verse, you get this hypnotic synth. It adds a little life to their very underwhelming delivery, and it completely saves the song. The beat is a solid 9 on 10 on this one, but the very monotone delivery that both Travis and Thug have are like a 5 on 10. But because the beat is good, it cancels out to make the song overall about a decent 7 on 10. The album as a whole, I can't give this thing more than like a 4 to 5 on 10. And it's just really sad because, again, after everything Young Thug has faced, after the entire world was waiting on him to not necessarily discuss all his trials and tribulations on record, he's never necessarily been known or loved for that. It's just been to bring fun, out of this world, alien-like performances and experimental approaches to all of his records. And unfortunately, this one, even after all he's been faced with, feels completely uninspired. It's very weird to me that someone who just got a second chance at life is more concerned with harping on the negatives that case brought out, the friends he lost in the process, the rats that he perceives, instead of the blessings and opportunities that he's now been granted. The very same ones that he might be taking for granted. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next one.